Mr. Speaker? 12 seconds. Oh, come on. Come on. I could talk about this for hours. Those are the facts, Mr. Speaker. Once again, the hypocrisy of this government is total and stunning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member will have 5 minutes for questions and comments after question period.
Labrador.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to stand today, and I'm proud to acknowledge the many contributions of our veterans and acknowledge the service of Inuit veterans in Canada. They have served our country with the utmost courage, bravery, and respect. One shining example of the efforts of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment is Jack Shywalk of my riding in Labrador, an Inuit from the community of Rigolet. Mr. Shywalk is remembered as the regiment's best sharpshooter, and it's said he credits his feat to the time he spent trapping, hunting, and fishing on the vast lands and waters of Labrador. At only 26, John entered the war effort and quickly rose through the ranks, ultimately becoming a lance corporal. Sadly, on November 20th, 1917, John and 6 other members of his regiment were killed in the battle. His loss was keenly felt by the whole regiment. Today we remember him, we remember all of our veterans, we continue to feel their loss, and we support their families, and we support those throughout our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, as we approach the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, let us all be thankful for all that we have. Across our nation, Canadians will pause to honour the sacrifice of those who have given so much for our freedom. Remembrance Day serves to educate our youth and future generations that the rights and privilege that we enjoy do not come without sacrifice. That's why I'm so proud to stand in this House today and recognize the hard work of the grade 5-6 students from Kersley Elementary School. They raised money to buy 3 plaques honouring those who fought in the Persian Gulf, Afghanistan, and in our peacekeeping missions. These new plaques will serve as a reminder for future generations that freedom is not free. I'm so proud of these students and their efforts to ensure that we honour those who, in their service to our country and our community, have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Those that continue the fight today, whether in our communities or in our battlefields overseas, or those who suffer quietly in the shadows, that we shall never forget.
The honourable member for Sydney, Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to honour those who have served our country over the last 100 years. Over 1 million men and women served our country to make peace around the world, and thousands came from my home in Cape Breton. Since I became Member of Parliament in 2000, I had the honour of visiting grave sites throughout the world, where many gave the ultimate sacrifice and did not come back. I visited grave sites in Normandy, Vimy Ridge, the Netherlands, and Hong Kong. We must always remember those who gave their lives for our freedom. And it's important we help those who come home. And it was an honour for me to be with the Prime Minister, Minister of Veteran Affairs, and many of my colleagues in this House to reopen the Veterans Affairs Office in Sydney at this time last year. I commend all my colleagues in this House who will go home over the next few days and attend events in their ridings with the veterans and the constituents. Let us never forget the ultimate sacrifice our men and women made for us and continue to make for us every day. All gave some gave all.
The honourable member for Esquimalt, Saanich Sioux.
Mr. Speaker, today we're hearing many moving statements on Remembrance Day, but this afternoon I rise to mark another day of remembrance, the Trans Day of Remembrance, November 20th. People and communities across Canada and around the world will be remembering victims of transphobic violence and rededicating themselves to working to end discrimination against transgender and gender-variant people. Last year, there were 317 reported murders of trans people, and many more were victims of violence and discrimination. This includes the murder of Cici Thibert in Montreal on September 19th. And despite hopeful signs that came this week with the election of several transgender people to public office in the United States, there have still been 23 murders of transgender Americans so far this year. On this Trans Day of Remembrance, we in Canada can point to Bill C-16, which guarantees the same rights and protections in law that all other Canadians already enjoy. but it is clear that much more remains to be done to build a more inclusive Canada, one where transgender and gender variant Canadians can participate fully, on an equal basis, and without fear.
Bravo.
The honourable member for Cambridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Recently, I had the pleasure to host the inaugural meeting of the Canada-Macedonia Friendship Group. A number of MPs came out to support this group, and we had the pleasure of hearing from His Excellency Tony Dmowski, the Macedonian Ambassador to Canada. I was proud to be elected chair of this group, and I'm looking forward to continuing the exchange of ideas and culture between our two countries. We are working towards hosting an event for all parliamentarians in the coming year. Building partnerships and connecting with the world is integral to how Canada operates on the world stage. Macedonia has strong ties to my riding of Cambridge, and many residents are among the 40,000 Macedonian Canadians calling our country home. Thank you to everyone who has supported this friendship group. Blagodaram, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Brandon Souris.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to pay tribute to the Brandon Marlins team and the management and players from their 1999 to 2008 seasons for being chosen to be inducted into the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame on June 2nd next summer in Morden, Manitoba. The Marlins were assembled in 1995 by a late great athlete, Neil Andrews, who, with the help of many others, recruited a great group of athletes who had played together since they were 10 or 11 years old. With the entry of the Marlins into the league, it breathed new life into Brandon's baseball community, and fans were privileged to watch some of the most exciting baseball games in league history. It goes without saying that the Marlins are champions. They went on to win the Manitoba Senior Baseball League title in 1999 and proceeded to win again in 2001, 2003, 2005, and 2008, among other accomplishments. I know many of the players personally, and they are true leaders both on and off the field. I can think of no greater honor to recognize these gentlemen as being inducted into the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame, so their accomplishments will be remembered for generations to come.
The honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, in a few days it will be a day of remembrance where we honor each and every Canadian who has served and fought for their country. Canadians like Margaret Rose Curry, who is from my riding of Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge, was a champion of hard work. She was a selfless, loving individual and a veteran who served in the Canadian Armed Forces. Since 1976, she has been an active member of the Royal Canadian Legion. Mr. Speaker, even after Margaret retired, she continued to serve by being involved in multiple organizations and devoted her time by visiting local schools to talk about the importance of Remembrance Day. A passionate and unwavering woman who worked tirelessly as she touched thousands of lives and made a difference with every step she took. In August, sadly, Margaret passed away after spending over 40 years serving our community. On this Remembrance Day, I would like to ask everyone to honor and remember inspiring veterans like Margaret Rose Curry. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Hull-Aylmer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am honoured to rise today to speak about the only charitable organization in Quebec solely devoted to the fight against prostate cancer. Procure is an organization that specializes in research, awareness raising, information, and support for men and their families. As you know, Mr. Speaker, I am a proud supporter of Bow Tie Thursday. That is why I will take on the role of ambassador for Procure's Bowvember campaign. I invite all House of Commons members to get a bow tie by contacting my office, and I challenge everyone to wear a bow tie every Thursday in November in this House in support of the fight against prostate cancer. Let's make a difference together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The
The Honourable Member for Louis-Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, I was born and spent my entire life in Loretteville, right beside the Indigenous community of Wendake. For 9 years, I have been proud to represent the Wendat, whether that's here in the House of Commons or in the National Assembly for 7 years. I know them, I love them, but most importantly, I respect them. For thousands of years, the Wendat have had their beliefs. And allow me to tell you what those beliefs are. They believe that when Yantik fell from the heavens, the geese caught her on their wings before laying her on the back of the great turtle, the leader of the animals. Great turtle then became a beautiful island, our Earth. That is their belief. Not mine, theirs. Mr. Speaker, one can have two different attitudes towards beliefs, either contempt and ridicule or respect. We respect their beliefs. We respect all beliefs. And that is what respect for First Nations is.
The Honourable Member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, as MP for the Bay of Quinte, I'd like to recognize all of our Canadian veterans, past and present. My riding is home to one of the largest veterans populations in this country. Men and women arrive to serve, and many stay to contribute dynamically to our region in their post-service years. When I became MP, it was an honor to hire a veteran on my team. A veteran's empathy, expertise, and eagerness to build solutions are valuable tools that raise the standards of service we can offer to our veterans community. I'd like to commend all employers in the Bay of Quinte riding who have also embraced hiring a veteran. I call on each of my honourable colleagues to hire veterans in their offices. Likewise, let's encourage all other Canadian employers to follow our example and that of my community. It's Veterans Week. Hire a veteran. It's our best chance to turn our words into action and show everyone how much we value our Canadian veterans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the 2017 inductees into the Etobicoke Sports Hall of Fame. This evening, 4 worthy individuals will have their names added to the roster of great Canadians who've made significant contributions to the world of sport. Jockey Enrico Rosa da Silva, winner over 700 races. Award-winning sports writer Steve Buffrey, who covered the Olympics for 15 years, not to mention the Leafs, the Raptors, and the Blue Jays. I'm particularly proud of David Two Cups Bowen, who brought the Stanley Cup home to Mimico and to his parents Drew and Carol on 2 occasions. The second time as a result of his Cup-winning goal in 2013. Lastly, I want to congratulate my good friend, Councillor Mark Grimes. He's worked tirelessly for youth sport in Etobicoke. He was instrumental in building the MasterCard Centre in Etobicoke and BMO Field in Toronto. He is truly a builder, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank them both, congratulate them both. Boys, I can't be there tonight. Have fun, and let's go.
Honourable Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow we will recognize the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Passchendaele, a defining battle in Canadian war history. The Battle of Passchendaele is remembered as one of the worst horrors of the First World War. The conditions for our soldiers were deplorable, with mud, water, and blast craters turning the battlefield into a literal quagmire. Sergeant Charles Pickney, Private William Doyle, Private William Hodgson, and Private Henry Siddle from my hometown were among the 15,600 Canadians who lost their lives in that battle. Sergeant George Mullen from Moosomin, Saskatchewan of the PPCLI was awarded the Victoria Cross for bravery in saving many lives. This Saturday, I encourage all Canadians to attend the Remembrance Day ceremony in their community to pay tribute to the brave men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice so that we may enjoy a life of peace and prosperity in Canada today. Their country needed them. They answered the call. We shall not forget.
The Honourable Member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise in the House to congratulate the Marconi Club in Sault Ste. Marie on the success of their first annual joint banquet. My wife Lisa and I had the pleasure of attending and thoroughly enjoyed this event. I wanted to congratulate President Joe Orzetti of the Guillermo Marconi Society and President Nancy Frigomoni MacDonald of the Elettra Marconi Society for the progressive ideas in honoring the rich Italian heritage and culture we are lucky to have here in the Sioux. This event could not have come together so beautifully without the hard work of Rosetta Sicoli and her legendary eggplant parmesan. Grazie to the entire Marconi Society for producing this historic event. I'm proud to say the Italian community in Sault Ste. Marie is a perfect example how multiculturalism and diversity can make Canada better. Buona fortuna, Marconi Club. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, this Saturday, November 11th, we will be celebrating Remembrance Day. This is a time to remember all those men and women who served. This week, we have all been proudly wearing the poppy, a symbol commemorating all those who defended their nation, sometimes even sacrificing their own lives. This year, in my riding, the riding of Jonquière, there will be a very special ceremony to pay tribute to our veterans. I will have the honor of participating in a parade along with many members and veterans from the Canadian Armed Forces, the Saguenay Regiment, the Naval Reserve, the RCMP, and the Royal Canadian Legion from Arvida and Kenogami. You are all invited to come and take part in this ceremony that will take place in the very heart of Arvida's heritage city. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Niagara Falls.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise in the House today to celebrate the Justice Committee voting to keep Section 176 in the Criminal Code. And I would also like to thank those tens of thousands of Canadians who wrote and emailed their respective MPs to stand for their right to worship peacefully and in security. Parliamentarians heard the calls of citizens from across our nation, and because their voices were resoundingly clear, Mr. Speaker, Canadians and religious officials will be able to practice their right to worship knowing that they will continue to be protected in the criminal code. Now, Conservatives have always supported religious freedom and the protection of those freedoms because we know the disruption of religious service is serious and is not a mere mischief charge. It is a fundamental right that greatly affects all Canadians, regardless of whether or not they attend religious services. Mr. Speaker, today is a victory for all faith communities in Canada.
Honourable Member for Canada Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, on November 11th, we honour the valour and sacrifice of those Canadian men and women who have served and continue to serve in the defence of peace, the protection of Canada and her allies, as well as in the name of freedom and democracy. This week, I had the great honour to join in the celebration of the 75th anniversary of 429 Bison Squadron, the squadron I once had the privilege of commanding. The squadron was formed in 1942 as a bomber squadron and still serves Canada with distinction 75 years later. Like the members of 429 Squadron, men and women of the Canadian Forces, past and present, have served in wars and combat missions, on countless United Nations, domestic sovereignty, rescue, humanitarian and disaster relief operations, all with unparalleled bravery and selflessness. To all those who have sacrificed so much, including the families who supported them, Mr. Speaker, I say, all of us say thank you. Canada is so very proud and so very grateful.
Questions orales, oral questions.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, we plan to mark Remembrance Day on Saturday, and we found out this morning that the Liberal government is cutting allowances for elite soldiers if they are ill or injured for more than 180 days. More than 180 days. Once again, Mr. Speaker, this government, which claims to be fair and just, is proving to us that it is acting in total contradiction with itself. Can the Prime Minister explain to us why the government had no problem with cutting financial compensation to our soldiers and then shamelessly protects its rich Liberal friends like Stephen Brofman? Mr. Speaker, the health and welfare of our soldiers is an absolute priority for us. The change that has been made includes a grace period of 6 months to allow them to return to regular duty. The government has resolved to make sure that soldiers will receive fair compensation for the services they have rendered to Canada. That is why the government recently approved an increase for soldiers' salaries. Along with their base salaries, soldiers receive compensation for specific missions and for those that have higher difficulty, like those that do parachute missions and search and rescue. The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the decisions that we make reveal the values that we hold. The actions of this government are disappointing. It's a total lack of respect for the men and women in uniform who defend Canada by risking their lives. Going from one crisis to be managed to the next is a strange way to govern. Does the Prime Minister understand the additional pressure that this government is putting on soldiers and their families, these Canadians who are making the ultimate sacrifice for their country?
Persons with disabilities.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to our veterans, full stop. We have showed that since we came into power. We are investing in financial security. We have reopened offices. We have invested in frontline staff. We are delivering on mental health services to better support our troops, and we will continue to find ways to continue to help them build their lives after service. Our government believes in our veterans. We'll be there with them every step of the way.
The member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, it is a fact. This government swore it would make mental illnesses a priority, and now it requires our soldiers who have had traumatic shocks to get over it in 180 days. 180 days, that's what they decided. The Liberal government seems to have a two-tier system, one for their Liberal friends and another for Canadian men and women, including our soldiers. Do the members of the Canadian Armed Forces have to scramble to go to work, still ill or injured, even if they're not ready for it, to avoid being penalized by this Liberal government?
Mr. Speaker, our government is fully committed to our Canadian Armed Force members and veterans and their families. We continue to build upon the supports we have in our mandate letter, whether it's reopening offices, that's investing in frontline staff, delivering on financial security, improving supports for mental health. I will let the member know we are really recently investing in a center of excellence for mental health for our veterans and their families to get the help that they need. We're standing by our veterans and their families, unlike the Conservatives ignored them for the 10 years that they were in office.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, last night we were shocked to learn that this Liberal government is stripping the pay of our brave men and women who are severely injured in the line of duty. This disgraceful decision to remove benefits from those who put their lives on the line for us is nothing short of cold and heartless. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing and reverse this shameful pay cut to our Canadian Special Forces?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. The health and well-being of our soldiers are absolute priorities. The changes we have made offer soldiers a grace period of 6 months to make a transition to their regular pay. Our injured or ill soldiers will have access to support mechanisms, and the goal is to help them to recover their health. The Chief of the Defence Staff is responsible for administering these policies. The Minister of Defence asked him to review this file to make sure that it is entirely relevant.
Prime Minister seems to have no problem making sure his friends are all taken care of, whether it's proclaiming Stephen Brofman innocent or turning a blind eye to the Minister of Finance blatant conflict of interest. But when it comes to doing what's right for our men and women in uniform and those who put their lives on the line every day, the Prime Minister has no time and zero sympathy. We can tell from that answer. Mr. Speaker, do the Liberals understand the damage that they are inflicting on our Canadian military by cutting the monthly allowances of these soldiers?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Our government has committed to making sure that our soldiers receive fair compensation for the services they render to Canada. That is why our government recently approved a salary increase of 6.34% for most soldiers. On top of their base pay, certain soldiers receive special compensation for fulfilling unique missions where they are exposed to higher levels of risk or higher levels of difficulty, like parachute missions, search and rescue, and those who spend considerable time on the ground or on the sea. There's been an increase of 5.1%. Our soldiers are well paid. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Neigit-Témiscouata-Les-Basques. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of National Revenue has been saying since the beginning of the week that her government has been able to recoup $25 billion by tackling tax evasion. However, the Canada Revenue Agency refuses to confirm if this money really has been recouped by the state. The minister's speech and that of the government keeps changing every day. The minister must stand up and end this culture of secrecy at the agency. What is the truth? Has the agency really recouped $25 billion, or did the agency just identify that amount? The Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government has fully committed to fighting tax evasion and aggressive tax planning. We are on our way to recouping $25 billion, which is the result of audits that have been conducted over the last 2 years. All of the companies and individuals impacted by these audits have received notices. The agency is currently collecting what is owed to Canadians. No one is above the law. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Neigit-Témiscouata-Les-Basques. That's funny because she kept talking about different numbers. It's from 13 billion we went to 25. It's doubled.
Keeps boasting about the CRA's investigations into tax evasion, but she sets a double standard. Remember when the CRA offered a secret amnesty to KPMG clients who stashed $130 billion in the Isle of Man? While a quick visit on the Canada Revenue Agency's website shows the name of hairdressers, farmers, realtors who got caught, but nothing on KPMG clients. They keep bragging about how they got a carpenter to pay a fine, but when will this government take on the real tax evaders?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, we are en route to recouping $25 billion, which is the result of audit activities led over the last 2 years. I would like to tell my colleague across the way that 2 years is 24 months and not 6 months. And we have invested $1 billion, Mr. Speaker. We continue to work. We are putting supports in place. Several jurisdictions. We are going to hire 100 auditors, and our actions are bearing fruit. The member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Since the revelations on Stephen Bromfin regarding the Paradise Papers, the Minister of National Revenue keeps saying the same thing. The government has committed to fighting tax avoidance and aggressive tax planning. Wait, according to Revenue Canada's website, tax evasion means deliberately ignoring the law, and that's illegal. How can something illegal also be abusive? Is there something that's illegal that's not abusive? Is there acceptable fraud? Is the line between what's acceptable and what is abusive is whether you are a friend of the Prime Minister and the Liberal Party, the Minister of National Revenue. Our government has firmly committed to fighting tax evasion and tax avoidance. In our last 2 budgets, we set aside nearly $1 billion for this, and our plan is generating results. 627 cases transferred to criminal investigations, 268 warrants, 78 convictions, Mr. Speaker. We continue the work for all Canadians. Everyone must pay their fair share. The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. I have another number for the Minister, 22. That's the number of agreements that they have with tax havens, and they're not moving their little finger to change that. In an editorial, there was a question, what is the government waiting for to cancel these tax agreements by which a Canadian company registered in Barbados doesn't have to pay taxes here? What are they waiting for to look into what Canadian banks are doing? Those are excellent questions. Are they doing nothing because it benefits their millionaire friends on Bay Street? Is that what's going on? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Our government is well aware that this is an issue that implicates billions of dollars, and we have made historic investments in our last 2 budgets, nearly $1 billion. The agency is using the information it has received through lists that are revealed by its partners in the OECD and BEPS, through which the agency is also a partner. That is how the agency was able to conduct nearly 1,000 investigations and has been able to lay criminal charges and look into corporations that are set up abroad.
For Provencher.
Mr. Speaker, new liberal ethical lapses seem to surface almost weekly, and they aren't just islands unto themselves. The finance minister hid his Morneau Chappelle shares for almost 2 years. Okay. He hid his French corporation, for which he was found guilty and fined by the ethics commissioner. And yet he still holds numerous numbered companies. Will the finance minister clarify for us today what other conflicts are lurking in the muddy waters of these other numbered companies?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I've mentioned time and time again in this House, the Finance Minister, when he arrived in Ottawa as an elected parliamentarian, he's done what's expected of all parliamentarians, all ministers. He's met with the Ethics Commissioner. He's always followed her guidelines. He's always made sure that he was in compliance with the rules. He's mentioned recently he'd go even above and beyond, divesting himself of all shares in Morneau Chappelle, placing all his assets in a blind trust. And the measures that he's put in place when he arrived were the ones recommended by the Ethics Commissioner, which were good enough for members on the other side of the aisle while they were in government, good enough for the member for Milton, good enough for Denis Lebel, which was to put in place a conflict of interest screen, which has been in place, which is still in place. Thank you.
Order. The Honourable Member for Beauport, Côte-de-Beaupré, Île d'Orléans, Charlevoix. Canadians don't even know where to look anymore. The Liberals' lack of ethics can be seen absolutely everywhere. What disturbs them the most is that the Minister of Finance, who is responsible for the country's budget, is hiding his assets in numbered companies. He hid his shares in Morneau Chappelle for 2 years. He never revealed that he owned a company in France. He was found guilty by the Commissioner and, more importantly, by all Canadians, and he had to pay a fine. How many more conflicts may we find in the rest of his numbered companies? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance has always worked transparently with the Ethics Commissioner, has always followed her recommendations, what is expected of every parliamentarian on both sides of the House, and he announced he'll go even further by putting all of his assets in a blind trust and by getting rid of his shares in Morneau Chappelle. Between October 19th and 2015, he's going to make a charitable donation. And what they're trying to hide is their bad track record on the economy. This minister has created a great many jobs over the last 2 years, has generated growth, and for the last 10 years, they had the worst performance of any government.
For Barry Innisfil.
After the finance minister spent the summer attacking small business owners, it's become crystal clear the Liberals are the party of the privileged, and there are two sets of rules. There are rules for them and rules for the rest of us. While the minister hid his foreign corporation from the Ethics Commissioner, Liberal insiders were hiding their wealth in a complex web of offshore tax havens. Middle-class Canadians and those working hard to join it don't try and hide things from the taxman. They can't afford it. Mr. Speaker, why doesn't the minister publicly disclose what's in all his numbered companies?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I'll reiterate again, the Finance Minister has done what's expected of all parliamentarians. He's worked with the Ethics Commissioner, in which we have the utmost trust to provide the right path forward for parliamentarians, for parliamentary secretaries, for ministers. That's what he's done, placing a conflict of interest screen, a measure which the Ethics Commissioner saw as the best measure of compliance possible, a measure which was good enough for members on the opposite side while they were in government. Now the Finance Minister has announced to go above and beyond her recommendations to continue the important work that he's been doing for 2 years for Canadians.
For Barry Innisfil.
Well, the minister keeps saying he's disclosed all of his assets, but he told everyone 2 years ago he placed all his assets in a blind trust. He told the media, Parliament, he even told members of his own caucus he had a blind trust, but we know that wasn't the truth. Now he's asking us once again to blindly trust him. But if he really wants to repair that trust that he's broken with Canadians, the solution is simple, Mr. Speaker. Shine a light on what's in all of his numbered companies. Why is that so hard?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Here in this Parliament, we have an institution, Mr. Speaker, the Ethics Commissioner, whose mandate is to provide the right path forward to protect the integrity of Parliament, to provide with recommendations to make sure that all members follow the rules. The Finance Minister, when he was first elected 2 years ago, met with the Ethics Commissioner, disclosed all of his assets to her, followed the path that she set forward, placed in a conflict of interest screen, and has focused for the last 2 years to serve Canadians, serve the public, has helped to grow this economy at a faster rate than they ever could achieve in 2 years, and I fully understand why they don't want to talk about their record, why they don't want to talk about the Finance Minister's record, because when you contrast, it's clear who's doing the better job. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
The Prime Minister has gone on the hunt for wealthy tax cheats, but he skipped right over his Finance Minister, who had hidden interests in France and in Barbados, who skipped over his chief fundraiser in the Liberal Party, who's linked to a $60 million tax haven in the Caribbean. But he did find diabetics and farmers and now Special Forces soldiers. When will Sherlock Holmes realize that if he's looking for wealthy tax dodgers, they're all around him?
Order. I don't think that there's a Sherlock Holmes in the House, and of course, if there were, we wouldn't refer to him by name. So I would ask members to remember to address their questions to the chair, of course, but to mention the minister they're addressing it to, if possible. If they're going to do that, that's fine. I do see the minister, l'honorable. Je vois que peut-être l'honorable.
I see perhaps that the Minister of National Revenue is rising to answer. Mr. Speaker, what the member in the opposition has to say is completely absurd and even irresponsible. No one is interfering with the work of the agency. The government has fully committed to fighting tax avoidance and aggressive tax planning. In our last two budgets, we invested nearly $1 billion. It's funny to hear the Conservatives talk about the importance of these issues when they did nothing about it when they were in power. The Globe and Mail did a report in 2014 on the fact that the Conservatives cut 50 managers who were responsible for international cases.
Well, there's no doubt that this minister is hiring a lot of tax collectors. The problem is they're going after the wrong people, diabetics and farmers and small business owners, not the real tax cheats. And as for her comment that nobody's interfering with CRA, well, maybe nobody except the Prime Minister and her. She wrote a letter on July 31st in which she said type 1 diabetics are unlikely to qualify for the disability tax credit, even when their doctors certify that they are. Will she withdraw that letter and tell her department to give diabetics back their tax credit?
The Honourable Minister for National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government has committed that Canadians receive the credits and benefits that they are entitled to. The eligibility for this tax credit has not changed. It's important to recognize that too many Canadians experience difficulties and they need help. That is why our government always has a humane, or rather human-centered approach. We have simplified forms. We have hired nurses, or rather nurse practitioners. We are putting everything in place to help people. The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, veterans are on the Hill today to ask the Liberals to respect their election promise and to give them their full pension. These veterans were betrayed by the Conservatives, and then they were disappointed when the Liberals, who had promised to do better, took them to court. In 2015, the Liberals supported an NDP motion that stated that Canada owed a sacred obligation to our veterans. Are they going to keep their promise, provide complete pensions, and recognize, again, that we owe a sacred duty to our veterans? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Infrastructure. Yes, we do have a sacred obligation towards veterans, especially those who are in difficulty. We will help them. We offer services and benefits every day to veterans and their families. We are going to keep our promise to offer a lifetime award, and we will provide more details later this year. Thank you.
London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, this government has repeatedly promised to bring back veterans' pensions, yet it continues to deny that the government owes a sacred obligation to our veterans. In fact, the Liberals hired the same lawyers as the Conservatives before them and have taken these veterans right back to court. So much for the world.
Shame.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has a choice. Will he keep his promise and bring back the full pension, or will he continue to deny the sacred obligation we owe Canada's veterans?
The Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, to be clear, we did not take these veterans to court. The Equitas litigation deals with issues that are addressed in the minister's mandate, including re-establishing lifelong pensions as an option. Unlike the Conservatives across the way, we could have addressed their concerns while in office, but we will deliver on our promise of a pension for life.
Order. The member for Calgary Shepherd.
Yesterday, I asked the Revenue Minister to release valuable information so that Canadians can understand how widespread the problems are with the disability tax credit for diabetics. The Minister has totally evaded my question. When it comes to the disability tax credit, Diabetes Canada has said, and I quote, that nobody is being targeted, except like the people with diabetes. Now, when will the Revenue Minister do her job, release the data on the disability tax credit, and come clean with Canadians suffering from diabetes?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Our Speaker has committed to making sure that everyone who needs them receives the credits and benefits they are entitled to. We are moving forward with a national law for disabled persons that will eliminate obstacles and emphasize accessibility for Canadians that have a disability. We've facilitated access to tax credits. But for 2 years now, the amounts have not stopped increasing. We have simplified forms, we have hired nurse practitioners, and we are asking nurse practitioners to fill out those forms. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Étrements-Lévis. If the Minister of National Revenue says that the amounts have increased, how is it that a citizen in Saint-Justine who used to get the tax credit for disabled persons and now is being denied that credit by the National Revenue Agency? How is it that the Prime Minister, who gave me his word, he said that he's going to make sure the Minister of Health and the Minister of National Revenue are going to follow up? And where are we with this case of the citizen in Saint-Justine who is worried, who is not a friend of the Prime Minister, and who doesn't have tax havens to put her money into? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government has committed to making sure that everyone receives the tax credits and benefits that they are entitled to. The eligibility to this tax credit has not changed. And I would like to say to my colleague across the way that he knows very well that all the information from the National Revenue Agency is strictly confidential. I cannot talk about anyone specifically in this House, not today, not tomorrow, and not throughout my entire mandate. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Étrements-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, we've had enough of empty words. What we need is action. What this citizen in Saint-Justine needs is action. And she wants to make sure that we stop attacking her savings because she's diabetic, she has children to take care of. And we want action, Mr. Speaker. Why are they defending their bagman who's saving billions in tax shelters and is not helping out this citizen in Saint-Justine? I'm waiting for action. The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. We are fully committed to fighting tax evasion and aggressive tax planning. It's funny to hear the Conservatives talk about the importance of tackling evasion and avoidance while they did so little while they were in power. 98 audits abroad. We conducted 223 investigations over the last year compared to the 10-year track record of the Conservatives. We did 335 investigations. These are concrete measures, and it shows that we take this situation much more seriously.
Lampton.
Mr. Speaker, the clock is ticking for people with type 1 diabetes who've had their previously approved disability tax credits now rejected. That's because refusal triggers a letter telling them they're not eligible for retirement disability pension funds they've been putting money in for 10 years, and the account must be shut down. And what are the Liberals going to do with the funds that were supposed to help these people manage their disability? They're going to use them to pay for their out-of-control spending. How can they not see that this is wrong?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government has committed to making sure that everyone receives the credits and benefits they're entitled to. Eligibility to the tax credit has not changed. It is important to recognize that too many people, too many Canadians, live with difficulties and need help. That is why we allow workers who have modest incomes to keep more of the money that they have dearly earned by increasing the working income tax benefit as of 2019. We are continuing to deliver to Canadians what we promised them. The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie.
Mr. Speaker, next week Canada will be welcoming the world to a conference on international peacekeeping, some 70 countries. And in the meantime, though, Canada still has not kept its promise to contribute to peacekeeping, and that is truly shameful. This government seems not in a hurry at all to keep its promises and fulfill its international obligations. So when is this government going to stop embarrassing us and finally announce its contribution to peacekeeping operations? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We believe that Canada has an important role to play in terms of peacekeeping operations, and we are proud of our record, and Canadians expect us to make an international contribution. That is why we have committed to provide $500 million and troops for peacekeeping operations. Last week, we announced an action plan, an ambitious action plan for gender equality in peacekeeping, and we do it as Canadians expect.
And it's soup.
Mr. Speaker, it's unacceptable that Canada will be welcoming the world to a conference on peacekeeping without making any specific commitment on a peacekeeping mission. To make matters worse, United Nations officials believe that the things being considered by Canada don't even match the UN's priorities. Now, with this conference just a few days away, it's still not clear if or how Canada will contribute. So again, Mr. Speaker, will this government be announcing a specific peacekeeping mission commitment before this conference opens?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has a proud history of peacekeeping, and our government knows how important it is for Canadians for us to re-engage in that leadership role in a modernized view of how peacekeeping is done through the United Nations. We committed personnel and $500 million to re-engage and take on a leadership role in peacekeeping operations. Last week, we announced an ambitious action plan that talks about gender equality in all of our engagement in fragile states, including in police and military deployments. Mr. Speaker, Canada will re-engage in a leadership role in peacekeeping operations around the world.
The honourable member for St. John's East.
Monsieur le Président, dans le budget de...
Mr. Speaker, in Budget 2017, the government announced that it would make parental and maternity leave more flexible and that it would improve support for caregivers.
Please, Children and Social Development, please update this House on recently announced measures our government is implementing to support parental benefits and those providing compassionate care.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm delighted to take this opportunity to thank the member for St. John's East for his remarkable work on behalf of his constituents. I'm also delighted to have been able to announce this morning that the Budget 2017 enhancements to our EI system will take effect on December 3rd. This, Mr. Speaker, means that parents will have more support, more flexibility to look after their children. It also means that caregivers will have more flexibility and support to look after their dear ones when they go through difficult health circumstances. This is part of our plan to grow the economy, grow the middle class, and help more Canadians join the middle class. We'll celebrate that next week.
The honourable member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, for weeks now, we've been calling on the Liberals because we want details on the scandals that we're discussing today in the House of Commons, especially with regard to tax evasion. Every time the minister talks about the number of investigations, but there are no comments on the details regarding the Liberals' cronies. So here's a simple question for the minister. Given that we discovered the Paradise Papers scheme, will all the cases quoted be investigated upon by her department, yes or no? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, we are firmly committed to working hard to fight tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance. Mr. Speaker, it's curious to hear the Conservatives talk about the importance of tackling tax evasion when they did so little when they were in power. 244 cases have been referred to criminal investigations under the Conservatives, and yet we had 135 last year alone. Only 39 search warrants were executed in their last year of government, and we had 123 in the last year alone. While the Conservatives work for the wealthy, we are working for the... Order. The Honourable Member for Beauce.
Make it a little more specific for the minister. The Prime Minister's friend and bike man for the Liberal Party of Canada, Stephen Brafman, was referenced in the Paradise Papers. Yep. The Revenue Minister spoke about a full investigation into those exposed in these papers. So my question is very simple for the minister. Can the minister assure this House that Stephen Brafman will be investigated, yes or no?
Yes.
Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, my colleague across the way knows full well that I cannot speak about any specific cases, and I won't do it today, I won't do it tomorrow, or ever. It is the integrity of the tax system that depends on it, but I can promise you that our government is fully engaged in fighting tax evasion. And, Mr. Speaker, no one is above the law. The law applies to everyone.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the minister just said she can't comment on an ongoing investigation, but that's exactly what the Prime Minister did. He said, we've received assurances that all of the rules were followed, and we are satisfied by those assurances. He's done exactly the opposite of what this minister promised had to happen. Apparently, if you raise enough money for the Liberal Party, your assurances are all you need to get off the hook. It must be nice, Mr. Speaker. So why are there one set of rules for the Liberals and one set of rules for everyone else?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, the comments of the member across the way are completely false and irresponsible. No one is interfering in the work of the CRA. In the last budget, we invested historic amounts, Mr. Speaker, close to $1 billion. And it is very odd to hear the Conservatives talk about how important this matter is when in 2014 they cut 50 manager positions who worked on cases in the CRA. The former Minister of National Revenue, Jean-Pierre Black.
Mr. Speaker, what's absurd and irresponsible are the words of the Prime Minister who said, we have received assurance that all of the rules were followed, and we're satisfied with those assurances. He has let Stephen Brafman off the hook based solely on his words. So the lesson for Canadians, if you want to avoid a pesky investigation, first of all, be rich. Second, be famous, but most of all, be a good, close friend of the Liberal Party who raises a lot of money. Mr. Speaker, why is there a different set of rules for friends of the Liberal Prime Minister and a different set for everyone else?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker.
Order. If there's any more chanting, people will be chanting outside.
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Order. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to combating tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance, and our actions show that. We invested close to $1 billion over the past 2 years. I might remind the members across the way that no one is above the laws, and the law applies to everyone in exactly the same way, and I find it quite stunning what the Conservative government is trying to do right now. What I am hearing from the other side is absurd and even dangerous, Mr. Speaker. No one interferes with the work of the CRA. We have a system that is fair for all.
The honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's special LGBTQ advisor said there is no link between an apology to the LGBTQ community and remedies. A year ago, the military ombudsman said that as soon as the minister gives approval, he would begin revising service records for veterans who were kicked out for being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgendered. And a year ago, every member of the Defence Committee voted for this process to begin. If there is no link between an apology and remedies, why are these vets still waiting?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Multiculturalism.
Mr. Speaker, all Canadians should be safe to be themselves, love whom they choose, and be free from discrimination of any kind. We've already made significant progress on these issues with Bill C-16 and Bill C-39. Our special advisor on LGBTQ2 issues, the member for Edmonton Centre, has been working hard and consulting broadly with the community to ensure that when an apology happens, it will be thorough and complete. That applies to veterans who are LGBTQ as well. Funds have been allocated for things like the expungement of records, and we will be addressing the issues of veterans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
The government is committed to a long overdue apology to LGBTQ Canadians, but this is the same Liberal Party that promised to eliminate the discriminatory ban on gay men donating blood and broke that promise. Mr. Speaker, there is no scientific basis for this policy, and it constitutes clear discrimination today. How can the Liberals offer a sincere and meaningful apology to the LGBTQ community for past injustices when they are practicing discrimination in the present?
Hear, hear. Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Through our efforts over the years, Canada continues to have one of the safest blood systems in the world. In June 2016, we took steps forward in reducing the barriers that prevent men who have sex with men from donating blood. Our government has also committed $3 million to Canadian Blood Services in collaboration with IMA Quebec to make further progress on this issue. This funding helped organize an international health conference on blood donor policy and will support behavioral research required to develop non-discriminatory practice and encourage the advancement of this technology. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, under the previous Conservative government, Canadian pulse exports went from $1 billion to a record $4.2 billion a year, with exports to India at $1.5 billion. But negotiated exemptions for Canadian exports expired more than a month ago. Wow. And now we've learned there's a 50% duty on Canadian pea exports to India. Shame. Mr. Speaker, how did the Agriculture Minister allow this situation to go from bad to worse? And when is he going to secure this vital trade market for Canada's pulse sector?
Minister of Agriculture.
Honourable colleagues concerned. And we are extremely concerned over India's increase in duties by 50% of all imported peas without providing any advance notice. We're raising our concerns with the Government of India, and we will continue to work with our farmers and colleagues to closely monitor the developments, determine implications, and raise these concerns with the appropriate Indian ministers.
Honourable member for Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, a third of Canada's pulse exports go to India. The Minister of Agriculture must make this a priority. There is simply too much at stake. The inactions of the minister have very real consequences. Further delays will jeopardize Canada's $4 billion pulse sector. We have critical trade agreements that are in jeopardy, and this minister has been pushed to the sidelines. He hasn't even been invited to a vital trade mission to India. When it comes to these negotiations, when will the Prime Minister appoint a Minister of Agriculture Canadian farmers can trust will be at the table fighting for them?
Hear, hear. Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I suppose I could say I appreciate the question, but it's a little hard. It's a decision that has been made by the Indian government. I think my honourable colleague is fully aware. We are fully aware of the importance of the export of lentils to India, but it was a decision that was made by the government of India, and we are working with the government of India to attempt to resolve this, and we don't want to complicate the situation anymore. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Banff Airdrie.
First, the Liberals made it more difficult for Canadians to qualify for a mortgage, taking away the dream of home ownership from thousands of first-time buyers. And now they're tacking on even more costs, adding thousands of dollars in expenses when Canadians build, sell, or renovate their homes. As the Canadian Home Builders Association said, you're talking about $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Our concern is always about what this will mean for affordability. So why are the Liberals making home ownership more expensive for middle-class Canadians while owners of fancy French villas are let off the hook?
Honourable Minister of Social Development and Housing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm delighted to be part of a government that knows how important it is for every Canadian to have access to affordable and adequate housing. In that context, Mr. Speaker, we have invested over $2.3 billion over the last two budgets to make sure that this is achieved. We're also going to be launching in the next few weeks the first ever national housing strategy with partners all across Canada. These partners have been waiting for us for a long time. We're back and we're going to be there to stay.
Member for St. Catharines.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government has committed to legalizing, strictly regulating and restricting access to cannabis. Through a public health approach, we are maximizing education and minimizing harm. Can the Minister of Health please update the House on our efforts to raise awareness of cannabis, particularly young people, of the risks of cannabis use? Thank you.
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to thank my honourable colleague from St. Catharines for his question and also his hard work. As he stated, our government has already begun raising awareness about the risk of cannabis use, especially for our youth. In this area, we are proud that we are investing $46 million, which will support awareness and health promotion activities, including for classrooms and youth organizations all across the country. Tomorrow, we are also hosting a symposium that will bring partners together across the country to identify priorities and actions, and also opportunities to promote partnerships with these agencies. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Immigration Committee held two meetings to review how Canada is assisting Yazidi genocide survivors, and today I moved a motion to have the findings presented in a report, and one additional meeting to hear directly from genocide survivors that have been resettled to Canada. In a shameful display, and in front of Yazidi witnesses, the member from Surrey Centre moved to adjourn debate. The chair then shut down the committee without a vote on anything. I feel that this should be a nonpartisan issue. So will the chair of the committee correct his error and commit to holding an extra meeting and tabling a report on this issue?
The honourable chair of the Immigration Committee.
I want to thank the honourable member from Calgary-Nose Hill for her question and also for her commitment and her work for the Yazidi women and men and children, girls and boys. The concern that she raised has come to our committee for the last two meetings. We have heard from officials and stakeholders, and there's now a motion on the floor that we extend that by at least one more meeting, and that motion will be dealt with at the next meeting possible. And I do need to add that very personally, I think that more information and better information is very important for us, as we all are very concerned about Yazidi men and women and their settlement in Canada. Thank you.
Honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
This government likes to deride the Conservatives for their failed action on climate change and Canada's melting Arctic. How then do they defend that it took a private petition just to get this government finally to provide just enough dollars to keep the lights on for 1 year for our renowned Pearl project? This government is granting a mere $1 million to a climate program once given $22 million overall by the Conservatives. Will this government respect calls by our nation's leading scientists and recommit long-term support for this critical climate change research?
Hear, hear. Honourable Minister of Science.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands that the Arctic matters more than ever before because of climate change. That's why yesterday, along with the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, I announced $1.6 million to continue operations and research at the Polar Environment Environmental Atmospheric Research Laboratory. It is one of Canada's most remote scientific stations located on Ellesmere Island, and researchers there monitor the changes in the atmosphere, climate change, ozone, and the environment.
Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, a dozen academics co-signed a letter in which they're trying to find out who the defenders of official languages are within the federal government. This question is neither rhetorical nor gratuitous because for the past 2 years, the Liberals have been nonchalant regarding the language file. Yep, a partisan commissioner appointment, an agreement on Netflix with no French content, and an action plan that won't be completed, and a department that doesn't respect its obligations, especially with regard to RESDAG. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that the official languages aren't a Liberal priority. Why? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, both of our official languages are at the heart of our history and identity as Canadians. We are firmly committed to promoting the use of these languages in our society and to support official language minority communities. We are working to put in place a new action plan to support and promote the vitality of these communities. It's a file that our government takes very seriously. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Revenue repeats over and over that her agency recovered $25 billion from tax havens. $25 billion, but her department's report today talks about $33 million for the last year. Oops. She's short just by $24 billion, 10 times less. Mr. Speaker, is she an exaggerator or does she get mixed up between millions and billions? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to collecting taxes and to combat tax avoidance and tax evasion. We are well on the way to recovering $25 billion, which are the results of audits carried out over the past 2 years. All companies and individuals affected by these audits have received notices of assessment. The CRA is collecting what is owed to Canadians, and no one is above the law, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I asked this House to support the unanimous request from the National Assembly of Quebec to grant Davie Shipyards its fair share. The 40 Phantom Liberals, Fordham Quebec Liberals said no, but I'll give them another chance. And yet their colleague from Nova Centre announced that Quebec wouldn't get anything because there were 32 members from the Maritimes who work for their region. How many jobs will have to be lost before the members of Quebec in this House start working for Quebec?
The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to working on the national shipbuilding strategy. This strategy represents a long-term commitment that will regenerate our maritime shipbuilding industry and support Canadian jobs. We are talking about $2 billion of opportunities that will be offered to Davie and other shipyards for the construction of small vessels and repair work and dry dock.
La Pointe-Lille.
Honourable Member for La Pointe-de-Lille. Talk, just to hide the fact that the Quebec Liberals are doing nothing. Quebec's going to be investing the government is going to invest $100 billion over the next 20 years, but nothing for Quebec, and not a penny for Davie. Where are our tax dollars going? Where are the 40 Phantom Liberals who are supposed to be working for Quebec? 600 workers in Quebec are going to lose their jobs because the government refuses to lift a finger, the government here in Ottawa. So what are these 40 Phantom Liberals for Quebec doing? Are they afraid of offending the Maritime Liberals? The Honourable Minister of Public Services.
The government is committed to the National Shipbuilding Strategy. The strategy is a long-term commitment that will rejuvenate our maritime industry, support Canadian innovation, and result in jobs for Canadians across the country. As set out in this strategy, $2 billion in opportunities remain for Chantier Davie and other Canadian shipyards for small ship construction projects, as well as ship repair, refit, and maintenance. We're also committed to consulting the marine industry on other requirements that may arise following an open and competitive procurement process.
D'abord, je comprends que l'honorable député de Terrebonne se lève pour interrompre.
The honourable member for Terrebonne can finish, and then there are two more. The honourable member for Terrebonne. I'm asking for consent of the House to adopt the following motion: that this chamber recognize the expertise of the Davie and Lévis shipyards, which represent 50% of Canada's naval production, and that the government readjusts its national strategy. It's clear that there is no unanimous consent on the part of the House.
East, I understand, has a point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Is the mic on?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Just during question period, the member from Don Valley West, the chair of the Citizenship and Immigration Committee, mentioned that at the committee, a motion was moved, and that motion related to the Yesides issue was to extend the study by one extra study and to report and to make a report coming out of that committee study.